Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Werner. I am the chair of the Concord Energy and Environment Advisory Committee, and we're very glad to have such a full room here tonight. Thanks for coming. What we're going to do here tonight is to have special remarks from some special guests who you've already met, and then we're going to have a panel discussion with a number of these people here, both city committees and some other folks that are involved in sustainability efforts in our city, an opportunity for you to ask questions of them. And then the last thing we're going to do is really wanting to hear from you in terms of what would you like to see our city doing. And I think the discussion that we'll have here with the panel will help inform that discussion. But we do very much want to hear from you as well. So here we are on the eve of Earth Day. So it was 55 years ago. Tomorrow, that is the first Earth Day in 1970, and we've come a long way, and you know, we have a lot more work to do, particularly in these times. I have to be quite honest around that. So, but we as an energy committee have been striving to build sustainability efforts in our city, and I want to thank our city council members for their continued support. If you're a member of the city council, please raise your hand. And thanks for being here. Okay. And our mayor, thank you. Also, I want to recognize our Concord Energy and Environment Advisory Committee members. If you're a committee member, please raise your hand. That's great. Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce our one of our committee members and City Councilor Stacy Brown to tell you about a number of initiatives that are going to go beyond this evening's discussion in ways that you can involve yourselves in sustainability efforts in the city to really get involved in it and make our community a better place. So we'll definitely be talking about that. And then Councilor Brown is also going to be introducing Congresswoman Goodlander, and we're very pleased that she's here with us tonight. And then we'll hear from our mayor, Mayor Champlin, and then we also are going to hear from a Concord High School student who is the president of the club at the school. And then we will go into this panel. So that's what we'll do. Yes. So Stacy, take it away.
Good evening, Concord, and welcome to the celebration of sustainability. I'm Stacy Brown, City Councilor and proud member of the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee. I'm honored to serve this community and excited to share the Earth Day Challenge. It's a call to action that brings our community together to make every day Earth Day. We've come up with a host of different activities and events that are simple, impactful steps towards sustainability. Planting a garden, riding a bike instead of driving, recycling, composting, cleaning up litter, and shopping locally. Every action you take makes a difference. Snap a picture of yourself and post it with the hashtag Earth Action Day and hashtag City of Concord NH. We'll randomly select a winner, but really, we all win because these actions connect us to our environment and each other, fostering pride in our city and our planet. Now, it's my honor as a veteran, former educator, and intelligence officer to welcome Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, an inspirational leader and our representative in Congress. A New Hampshire native, Maggie has dedicated her career to public service as an intelligence officer in the Navy Reserve, to advising on landmark legislation in the Senate, and teaching constitutional law at UNH and Dartmouth. Her work in the Biden administration, leading the Unity Agenda, tackled pressing issues like the opioid epidemic and mental health, reflecting her commitment to community resilience. As a member of the House Armed Services and Small Business Committees, Maggie champions federal investments that support sustainable programs for Granite Staters. Tonight, we celebrate her leadership in ensuring a sustainable future for Concord and beyond. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want me to just talk right into this? This is the strangest microphone I've ever seen. Oh, Wonderful. Hello, I hope this is Concord Local Television. All right, my favorite. Stacy, thank you so much for that really nice introduction. Go Army, and thank you for everything you're doing for Concord and everything you've done for our country. Rob, thank you for everything you do and for inviting me here tonight. It's so great to be here with you, Mr. Mayor, with the Concord City Council, so many of you here tonight. You know, Concord really is, growing up in Nashua, I always had this idea about Concord. You know, we're a little bit of the underdog down south, but Concord is really a center of excellence, and this community center, this group that's here tonight, you really are an expression of why it's true that every day in America has got to be Earth Day. And it's very special to be with you on the eve of Earth Day. When I think about 55 years ago, 20 million Americans coming together, today we've got over 1 billion people in 193 different countries. You know, a movement that really started with people. And that's what, you know, I keep my Constitution with me everywhere I go. And I got to say, it's very useful in my line of work because it really is. I mean, I don't know how anyone does this job without having a copy of it on them. I don't know how anyone does this job without having read it many times before, as I did when I taught constitutional law right here in Concord at UNH Law School. But so many of my colleagues have never read the Constitution, but they cannot escape me on the House floor. So I find ways to make sure that I am reading this document to them and showing it to them, because this experiment that we undertook, you know, will be marking 250 years next July 4th, 2026. And we know this, it's fragile. And we see its fragility every single day in this country. We see how fragile this experiment is. But what I feel tonight in this room is what I feel every single day in my job. You know, whether it was earlier today in Franklin, you know, tomorrow morning I'll be in Keene, I'll be up in the North Country on Thursday. The thing about this country and this experiment and this state that we live in is that people are stepping up and they're coming together, just in the way we did 55 years ago on the first Earth Day, but also the way that we did this when we launched this experiment almost 250 years ago. It really comes down to people coming together in rooms like this. And so I just want to thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank you for everything. You know, so many of you wear multiple hats, and that's why Concord is a center of excellence. So many people in this room are serving our communities and one another in so many different ways. But I just want to say a few words. You know, in my travels and work, in my work now in the House, we cannot and will not give up on addressing the climate crisis. And language really often fails us when we talk about this challenge. But I know from my time in the Navy, and we know from what we've heard from the Department of Defense for more than a decade now, this is a national security crisis. This is a threat to our safety and the safety of all of our communities. You know, we know that this is also an affordability crisis. We've got some of the highest energy costs in New Hampshire anywhere in the country. And I know from my time working in the Justice Department, in the Antitrust Division in particular, big oil companies' profits have never been higher. And accountability has never been more urgent. And this is something that is going to take, we may be on a long road to success here, but it's a road that I am going to be traveling with you on every single step of the way. We know that this is a public health crisis at bottom. You know, raise your hand if you've actually had Lyme disease that you know of. I think probably a lot more of us in this room have had Lyme disease and we just didn't know it. Respiratory illnesses, which are killing people every single day in New Hampshire. Look, at bottom, this is about basic rights that we want for ourselves and for our children. We want the right to be able to breathe clean air and drink clean water. It comes down, it's as simple as this. But I want you to know that I'm with you in this fight, and it is a fight. It's a fight that's going to require us to stand up to some of the most pernicious forces that we've ever seen in the history of this country. And when I think about the idea that LCV would be ripped of its 501c3 status just as a tactic in an attempt to continue to erode our communities and our institutions that are fighting on behalf of all of us here, This is something that we cannot stand for. And so tomorrow may be the most momentous Earth Day that we've seen in 55 years. But I want you to know that I am a partner to you. And what I want to say about representative democracy right now is two things. Our system is not working as it should. Government is literally being weaponized against the people. And the rumblings that we're hearing about how tax status might be weaponized to try to undermine the environmental movement in this country is just one example. But it's one we can't take our eyes off of. But the way that we have got to govern now, I said this earlier today, it's actually like guerrilla governance, because the government is not working as it should. We aren't getting answers from executive departments and agencies. But you know what we are getting? We're getting information from the people themselves. So representative democracy is working in the sense that we are hearing about things that are happening directly from the people. And that's why I just want you to all know our telephone number, which is 226-1002, and we'll make sure that we get this sent out to everyone here tonight. Our offices are right on Main Street in Concord, and I want to introduce you to our district director, Nick Brown, who's here with us tonight. We really, did you have a question? We're on Main Street. It's 18 North Main Street. We're on Main Street in Concord, Main Street in Nashua, and Main Street in Littleton. So, well, there it is. We'd love to have more offices, and what we're trying to do actually is we're allowed to actually do office hours in City Hall, Mr. Mayor. So we've got some real estate on Main Street, but this is absolutely. We really need to work with you, and we want to hear from you. So I hope you know that we're a partner to you in every way. I just want to leave you with this. There's a lot happening. A lot of disruptions. One thing I hope that everyone in this room will remain laser focused on is November 3rd, 2026. Right now, we're in an environment in New Hampshire that we're going to see replicated across the country. The right to vote, which I believe deeply is the right from which all of our rights flow, is never going to be harder to exercise than it will be on November 3rd, 2026. It's going to take all of us, and we have extraordinary, and I'm sure in this room, we have extraordinary, nonpartisan, patriotic election workers, election officials, poll workers who do the hard work of democracy. But it's actually going to have to start right now, because when I take a look at the legislation that went into effect last month here in New Hampshire for our town elections, the risks of widespread disenfranchisement are very, very real. We have the SAVE Act that right now passed through the House of Representatives. It is a pernicious piece of legislation that is more restrictive, that will be more damaging to our democracy than the law that's already on the books in New Hampshire. And we have an opportunity to make sure that this bill doesn't get signed into law. It's going to be considered by the United States Senate. And so I urge you to call United States senators and to make the case, because this is, I think, the most significant thing that we can do for New Hampshire and for our country, which is to make sure that we have a free and fair election on November 3rd, 2026. And in the meantime, I want you to know that I'm here as your partner. I work for you, and you're the best boss in the world. So I hope you will put me to work, and I hope that you will stay in close touch with us. And I just want to thank you for being here tonight and for everything you're doing for Concord and for New Hampshire and for our country. Thank you. And
We have a senior from Concord High School, Myrick Oxnard. You're on your way to Tufts University, is that right? Congratulations. But you're the so you're the president of the environmental club at Concord High School. Thanks for doing that work, and we invite you to say a few words from your perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. As I was just introduced, my name is Merrick Oxnard, and I am a senior at Concord High School and president of CHS's EnviroCorps Club. First, I want to thank Ms. Fernandez for being our advisor and helping us pave the way for a more environmentally conscious school. Our club is dedicated to making CHS a greener space and promoting sustainability within our community. In the past, we've completed projects such as planting trees and bulbs on our school grounds, maintaining a native species garden beside the music wing, and raising money for sustainable charities. In 2024, and again in 2025, we are the recipients of the Schoolyard Canopy Enhancement Program. We plan on finishing this year out by planting another tree on our grounds sometime this May. We'd love if you could come join us. While the progress that we've made as a community is really worth celebrating, I want to emphasize that there is still so much work to be done. For instance, as a current student, I would like to ask what ongoing efforts are being made to make our school system greener. Are we incorporating solar panels or a geothermal heating system into the blueprints of the new middle school, and will that building be LEED certified? Oh, sorry. Is there a plan in place to get the high school down to net zero carbon footprint, such as through low-flow toilets or updated insulation to decrease energy consumption? Even beyond the traditional school setting, when the lights at Keach Park are installed, where many of my CHS peers play sports, will those lights be environmentally conscious? I want to know what measures are being taken to ensure that our school district is prepared for the future. And perhaps more globally, what can we do as a community to prepare my generation for the future? As seniors, my classmates and I often find ourselves talking about what our futures might hold. But more often than not, I've found not excitement and hope, but shared anxiety and fear. Over the past 3 months, we've watched as the EPA has rolled back climate and air pollution regulations, as staffing for national parks has been significantly cut, as nearly 60% of national forest land has been opened up to logging, including our very own White Mountain National Forest, where I've grown up hiking for my whole life. And as just turned 18 brand new voters, we are asking the adults in the room who hold the power to make change to please listen to our concerns and to consider extending an invitation to us so we can have a seat at the table and partner with you. We may very well be your colleagues in a few short years. To be clear, we can and we should celebrate our wins as a community, but we must not forget that there is an enormous amount of progress to be made. I am really hopeful that when I return for my 10-year reunion, that I'll find upgrades and a lower carbon footprint coming from Concord High School. Maybe there will be a garden out front with fruit trees and vegetables that will support our CRTC culinary program. Maybe there will be solar panels on sections of the roof that will bring down our electricity bill and carbon footprint. As anxiety-inducing as our current situation is, I do really believe that we can make a difference in this world. To everyone in this room, please do your part to get us to that future. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to hear from our mayor, Byron Champlin, who, before he was elected mayor, we were very honored to have him as part of our energy committee in the city. And so, Mayor Champlin.
See if I'm remedial in my sound work here. Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you very much, Congresswoman. It's an honor to have you here today. I can't tell you how proud I am as mayor of Concord that we have filled this auditorium with people who are concerned, aware of the challenges that we face relative to the environment, sustainability. And I'm very, very proud to be the mayor of a city that has taken this task on very seriously and very deliberately. Concord is a great city, and we have made a great effort. When I was listening to Rob earlier, and he was talking about 55 years today, I was thinking about Sergeant Pepper's, and I was thinking, saying, well, it's 55 years today, Sergeant Pepper taught the, no, it's not quite that. But I was very proud to serve on the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee. It was a great time. We are at a kind of a tipping point for our country. This community has made a serious commitment to being environmentally sensitive and to be set ambitious goals for sustainability. We've made great progress in recent years. At the Hall Street wastewater plant, for example, we have a 60 kilowatt behind the meter solar array that has been constructed, and that was entirely funded by a New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services ARPA grant. We're very proud of that. We also, in October of last year, we launched our community power here in the city, which I think has been very successful and was really the result of an extraordinary amount of effort by the members of the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee and of its chairman, Rob Werner. I think that's one of the things that we need to be most proud of. Last year, through the request for proposal process, the city selected Kearsarge Energy to develop a new 5 megawatt solar facility at our old Turnpike Road landfill site. That's right next to the transfer station near the airport. That project should be completed by, the permitting rather, should be completed by June. And it's expected to begin in the fall and should go live in 2026. We have completed a section, about a 3/4 mile section of the Merrimack Valley Greenway Trail, which has taken an awful lot of work by an awful lot of people, many of them in this room. And as we envision it, it's going to provide a safe alternative transportation route through the city for pedestrians and for cyclists. We're in the process of negotiating with CSX Railroad to acquire the railroad right-of-way, say that 3 times fast. And we're hoping that once that's acquired, we will be able to have a rail trail that extends from the Bow town line to the Boscawen town line. And that will be a great achievement, right? Also, we've just finished the construction of the Canal Street Riverfront Park in Pennacook. Why is this important? Because it's an 1.5 acre park that's on the site of what used to be a hazardous waste dump at the site of the old Allied tannery. And it is the culmination of decades of work by the city of Concord to clean up that site, to mitigate it, and to find constructive reuse. When that park is open, this may seem like a small thing, but the Walker Lecture Series has agreed to fund concerts at the park on a regular basis, and we're going to bring life and activity to Pennacook Village, which is much needed. The people of Pennacook have great heart and great pride in their community, and hopefully bringing activity back to the downtown, as well as the people who are living in the affordable housing that's now on that site, will be a significant milestone for the community. As the federal government retreats from environmental protection, climate action, and investing in clean energy, our responsibilities to each other and to our communities is what really counts. I think that Congresswoman Goodlander underscored that extremely well. States and municipalities, cities and towns, cities like Concord are leading the way, and we're very proud that Concord is part of that movement. You'll hear some updates this evening, probably on some of the things that I've mentioned from our various leaders here in the community. And you'll also have an opportunity, as Rob said, to ask questions. So I'm going to get out of the way, let the important work take place. And again, I want to thank you all. I again, cannot say enough how proud I am to see all of you here tonight to talk about these important issues. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to call our panel up now. So please take your seats, and I'll do some quick introductions. So we have Beth Fenstermacher, who's the Director of Special Projects and Strategic Initiatives for the City of Concord. We have Ted Deers, who is on our Concord Tree Committee, also works at New Hampshire DES, you might know. Reagan Bissonette, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee member and Executive Director, Northeast Resource Recovery Association. Craig Tufts, Transportation Policy Advisory Committee, Bike Pedestrian Subcommittee. Tracy Lesser, Environmental Science and Sustainable Agriculture Professor at NHTI. And Jeff Evans from the Five Rivers Conservation Trust. So as I said, what we're going to do is have each of our folks sort of give an overview of what they think are the most important aspects in their area, and then we'll take some Q&A.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Great. Thanks, everybody. As Rob mentioned, I'm Beth Fenstermacher. I'm the staff person in the City of Concord for the Energy Environment Committee. My position was created about 2 years ago, and one of the goals was to have somebody in the city on the staff level working towards sustainability initiatives. I have a bunch of things that I work on, but one of them is sort of tying everything together to make Concord more sustainable. So I'm just going to go through some of the things that the city operationally is going on, and I think the panel beyond me will talk about what of the different committees in the city are working on. These are people from your community that are helping move a lot of these initiatives forward, so it's exciting. So one of the things the city, Rob mentioned it, we voted to be 100% renewable energy community in 2019. The city council voted for that. So some of the efforts that we've made since then are kind of fall under the list of things that I'll be talking about that the city is doing for our buildings. So energy-wise, electricity-wise, the city, with all the buildings that we own, there's 161 municipal electric accounts for all the buildings and park lights and parking lot lights. We are considered 100% renewable right now through the acquisition of RECs, renewable energy credits. It's all wind, so it's national credits. We wish there was a lot more local energy available so that we could purchase that, and we will be working on that. But right now, the most feasible and economically efficient way to achieve that goal for the city municipal accounts is through the acquisition of those renewable energy credits. The Properties Division is working on energy efficiency upgrades for all of our buildings. So this building, constructed in the past 10 years, there was a lot of improvements done here to make it a lot more energy efficient. At the Everett Arena, they put all new insulation there, so that's helping with the energy efficiency there. In that building, the only incandescent light bulb left is in the Coke machine, so it's fully LED. Get working on Coke. Utilizing Unitil rebates and any other grant funding that comes across, we've been replacing LED lights throughout the community. So every street light in city, except for 72 of them, are LED. Those 72 are those little rusted Bishop hook lights that you see coming into downtown that hopefully we'll be replacing in the next couple of years. All the tennis courts, LED lighting. All the parking garages, LED lighting. So as projects come up, we've been replacing things to be more energy efficient. Automation of building management systems. The daylight harvesting is a pilot project at the comp where General Services is based on our State Street. And that is the lights adjust to how much sunlight is coming in. So they're working through that system right now. And there was a greenhouse gas inventory that was done a few years ago. We have a fellow through the UNH Sustainability Fellowship Program that will be joining us this summer to help update that and come up with some policy initiatives that we can bring to the city to move that forward. As the mayor mentioned, we just installed the new solar installation at Hall Street to offset the wastewater plant is the biggest energy hog in the city. But there's a fun little online thing that if you go to the city's website, you can find this virtual dashboard that shows you what the energy offset is doing as far as helping with water consumption, the different gas. So there's different metrics. We've been updating concordnh.gov/sustainability with sort of kind of a clearinghouse for all of this information, and we'll be updating it as we move along. We are looking into EV chargers for city vehicles. So as we need to replace city vehicles, trying to replace those with electric vehicles, but we need the infrastructure first. So the city's been working on that for the past year, that we have a design with an engineering firm for police station, Green Street Police Station right now, the Hall Street wastewater plant, the water treatment plant, clean water treatment plant, and the General Services. So looking at placing EV chargers for municipal vehicles at this point right now. Also, the Community Power Program launched in October. About 67% of the accounts in the city right now are in the Community Power. The more people that are involved, the more money we get towards local energy projects and projects we can do in the future. So look for that at the subcommittees of the Energy Environment Committee are looking at different projects we can do once we have a reserve accounts built up for that. The 5 megawatt solar array project that we're working diligently on, that should be constructed soon. I'm trying to get them to get sheep for vegetation management. I'm putting that out there publicly so it happens. There's also, we redid our solar ordinance probably like 6 or 7 years ago now, that allowed these larger solar installations to happen. So on West Portsmouth Street, a company called Lodestar is doing a private, about 6 megawatt facility that got permitted through the city. Not quite sure where it is yet, but that should be coming live hopefully in the next couple of years. Parks and Rec has been putting pollinator gardens at parks that we've been working on. They've created some no-mow areas throughout the city, adding lots of trees with the Canal Street Park. I think we added about 75 new trees. We redid our permitting program for the city. So when people apply for permits, they used to bring stacks of paper. Now it's all online. So we've reduced the amount of paper coming in. And then we just joined the New England Municipal Sustainability Initiative, which is a regional organization for staff to get together to learn from each other of what we can do to move forward some sustainability initiatives. So that's my, that's a lot going on. Yes. Do you want to do questions afterwards?
Do you want to do questions?
Oh, why don't we do this, go through first, and then we'll do that.
I'm going to stand up so that you can hear me better.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ted Deers. I'm the chair of the Concord Street Tree Committee. Yes, we have a street tree committee. And it's a tough time to be a tree. I will tell you, being a tree in the city, it's not easy. We have a lot of conflicts in our city for trees to endure. We have utilities, we have traffic, we have salt on the roads, we have insects, we have pestilence, we have zombies, you name it. Our trees have to deal with it. So our street tree committee is really about trying to identify those locations where we can get trees in the ground. So, and with all those conflicts, it's a difficult thing. This is where you come in. We have a lot of initiatives. One of the greatest ones we have is the Sustainable Tree Program. So if you are a resident, you own property here, and you have that area in the median in front of your house that has an area that's within the right-of-way of the city, and you'd like to get a tree to place there, we would like to hear from you, because we would get that, and we'll talk to you about it. There's oftentimes scholarships to help fund that tree, and the city will come in and place it there for you and teach you how to take care of it. So we have that program, and it's available, and it's become very, very successful over the last few years as we've been doing a lot of outreach on that program. Other things you're going to see around the city, some new initiatives. Beth, would you like to hold up the new initiative? You will see downtown a number of these tags that will be on some of the trees in the downtown area, which are nutrition tags. And instead of saying how much calories you would get by eating this tree, this is not set up for beavers and muskrats, it really says what is the value of this tree as it relates to water and CO2 and other aspects, pollution, that help the city to be a nicer place for all of us to live. And so it's a way to get to people to start thinking about that this tree that I see here isn't just the source of irritation as it drops its leaves in the fall, or that I have to pick up sticks in the spring, that this has real value to me. And that's part of the other outreach we're doing. We've been going to the farmers markets and talking to people at the farmers markets about trees. We also have been looking for other places around the city. We've gotten some grants to do some work in the cemeteries and replanting there. And so anyone who's interested, please come to the Street Tree Committee, and we'd be happy to talk to you. I think the next big thing for people is once they sort of get the feel for maybe getting a tree in their front yard, let's try to get some trees in the backyard. Let's try to encourage our neighbors to plant some trees as well. Because we did an inventory a few years ago, and just in the core area of the city, from 2020 to from 2000 to 2020, we lost somewhere around 35–38% of the trees that had been inventoried. It's pernicious. You don't see it happening. It's not all at once. But it's, like I said, it's hard to be a tree. So I want to wish you all a very, very happy Earth Day. And please hug a tree and plant a tree and water the tree and look out for each other's trees And please come and talk to us if you're interested in doing some trees in your own neighborhood. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Reagan Bissonette. I am a member of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and also the Executive Director of the Northeast Resource Recovery Association. We're a nonprofit that supports municipalities with their recycling, and the City of Concord is a member of our organization. So we are really fortunate to have a number of fantastic staff at General Services to support the work of recycling and solid waste management in the City of Concord. So I want to acknowledge that. And we also are really fortunate to have an active and engaged Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And our chair, Brent Todd, is here, and Councilor Judith Kurtz as well. And so we really are fortunate to have such a great group of people who are thinking about trash and recycling in the city. So the big topic that we have been discussing over the past year and more at our committee meetings is the transition that the city is going to be having in how we manage our trash and recycling. So our 10-year contract that we had with Casella for trash and recycling ended last June, and we signed a new contract. And under that new contract, there's two major changes. One is that we used to take all of our trash that we generated as a community and we would truck it all the way up to Bethlehem in northern New Hampshire to get disposed of in a landfill. Under our new contract, our trash is actually staying local, and we are taking that to Pennacook, where there is a waste-to-energy facility where our trash is combusted. And some of the benefits of that change are that we are not transporting our waste so far away by truck. We are able to actually have any metal that people are throwing away in their trash. I'm sure all of you are recycling your aluminum cans, but if anything gets into the trash, it's actually able to be recovered and recycled from that facility. And then also we're able to generate electricity from our trash. So those are all positive changes for how we as a city are managing our trash. Some of the bigger changes we're going to see related to collection of our trash and recycling will take place in a few years, because we are going to be moving from having the staff of Casella manually picking up our recycling bins and our trash and putting them into the trucks. We're actually going to be switching to a system where they'll have trucks with an automated arm that can pick up a large tote and get that material into the truck without having to have staff do that manually. And that's just a change we're seeing in the industry for safety and efficiency reasons. And that's something that we're going to be rolling out citywide come the year 2028. In the meantime, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is working with the city staff to talk about running a pilot program where we are actually going to test out that automated process with one of the 4 trucks that collects trash and recycling in the city. So we'll be announcing later which communities in the city are going to be participating in that pilot program, and that's how we'll make sure that program is going to work really smoothly when it's rolled out citywide. I also want to acknowledge that as part of that transition, the city plans to keep our Purple Bag Pay-As-You-Throw program. And I want to emphasize why there are so many benefits from that program. One is that in 2009, when the city adopted that program, we actually saw all of the trash that we generate as a city drop by 40%. That was such an astonishing drop that the head of the solid waste division called around to neighboring towns to make sure that they hadn't suddenly seen an increase in trash coming from the city of Concord. And they hadn't. What it was is that we finally had that financial incentive to think twice before we threw something away. And we saw recycling increase in the city as a result. So we do plan to continue that Purple Bag program as we roll to this automated collection. And the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and city staff will be spending a lot of time and energy to make sure this transition goes smoothly for everybody. 2 other topics that we've been talking about recently as a committee relate to our desire to hopefully bring a food waste collection program for residents in Concord. This would probably be through the transfer station as a drop-off option for residents. And then also looking at opportunities to have clothing and other textile recycling opportunities in the city where you can easily bring clothing and other linens and items that are no longer able to be used, and you can get those responsibly recycled. Those are two things we really want to keep out of our waste stream as a city, and really statewide as well. And then lastly, I want to acknowledge that both through the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and then also as my work with the Northeast Resource Recovery Association, I get a lot of questions about recycling. And people want to know, does recycling work? Is it all just being thrown away? Is it worth it? And I just want to say that, from my experience working directly with dozens of recycling companies throughout New Hampshire and New England, I can absolutely say that yes, recycling works. It really is happening. The recyclables that you're putting into your recycling bins in the city of Concord are being recycled responsibly through Casella. And, I get that this is confusing. I get a lot of questions about plastics. And so, the city of Concord is going to be working on increasing the education that we already do around recycling and waste management. And then through my organization, we do a lot of education as well. So one local opportunity coming up is that our organization puts on a recycling conference for about 300 people every May. On May 19th and 20th, we're going to be at the Grapponi Center in Concord to talk all about recycling. So if people want to extend their learning further, they're certainly welcome to join us for that opportunity. But otherwise, you can stay tuned for a lot more information coming from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Hi, I'm Craig Tufts. I serve on the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee and the Bike Ped subcommittees and a few other bike ped related things. I work at Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. I'm a transportation planner by my job. And I looked up the city of Concord. They did a greenhouse gas emissions inventory in 2019, and transportation was 57% of emissions, transportation and mobile sources. So that's significant. A lot of us right now are thinking EVs as the fix to that, and yes, that's an important thing. And if you have questions about it, I'm sure Beth probably knows more than I do about what's happening in the city. But I kind of wanted to talk more about what everybody in the city collectively has been doing for alternatives to driving, so making it a more attractive, safer choice to bike and walk places, providing those options. So I kind of see, two sides of it. One is the infrastructure and one is the programs. On the infrastructure side, Concord was the first city in the state to have a complete streets policy. They call it a comprehensive transportation policy is what we call it in Concord. And that's basically, you're building a road, you're rebuilding your road, have it be designed to accommodate all users of the roadway. And there was a long period of history where it was just moving cars quickly, and we kind of saw the results of that. And I could give you a dissertation about it, but I won't. So I think the Main Street project that we remember, the Main Street Complete Streets project, is kind of like the ultimate big project where, if we remember, 12 years ago, it was 4 lanes of traffic, lots of space for parking, and the pedestrians were squished on the edges, and when you were crossing the street, you were kind of playing Frogger. So that's kind of the idea. We had a great community gathering and arguing and figuring it out and hashing it out, and we have something that I think is great. You show up, you park once, and you do all your business walking around on foot. On the other end of the spectrum, TPAC is looking at, okay, we're repaving a street. Where is the paint going down? Could we look at where the lane striping is going to make it safer and more accessible for everybody? So TPAC and the engineering division, they have community meetings, so it's always good if you hear about one to show up and talk about your priorities for safety, for biking, for walking. It's always a balance trying to figure out all these competing interests, parking, and so that's happening. So be aware, and it's a lot of good stuff happening there. So some other things going on infrastructure-wise is the trail. Mayor Champlin did an awesome job talking about their Merrimack River Greenway Trail. And I know Beth personally has put a lot of work into this too. So envisioning biking or walking from Pennacook to downtown, going through some awesome scenic areas. And the other trail project, Concord Lake Centipede Rail Trail, so from Fisherville Road up towards Kentucky Village, that's a work in progress. And the great thing about trails is they're low stress, is what you call it in technical planning terms. So they're accessible. You don't feel afraid to ride your bike there. So when you can combine trails with neighborhood streets, it makes it really easy to be able to get around on a bike and to feel safe doing that. And it's great for kids. And so we have people here from the Greenway Trail and Concord Lake Sunapee, so ask and talk to them. So on the program side, there's a lot going on. So we have a group in here, Central New Hampshire Bicycling Coalition. They're under Bike Walk Alliance of New Hampshire. Our big event is coming up on May 17th, and that's the bike swap. It's held at S&W Sports. They're great friends. There's, I think, some flyers in the back. So what happens is people can consign a bike, and the nonprofit gets a cut, and you get a cut. I think it's like 75-25, something like that. Or you can donate a bike, and then the full proceeds go towards the program. And the Bike Coalition, we've invested in a lot of cool programs. So one of my favorite ones is bringing bikes at school. One of our board members, Tim, is here. He had the idea of, at PE classes, kindergarten and first grade, if they had access to bicyclists, that could be part of their PE program, where kids could learn how to ride a bike. So we donated a bunch of money. We bought a bunch of bikes. The S&W Sports got them a cost. We had a bunch of volunteers build them. We built some racks in my driveway, and my kids put the names on them. So kindergartners and first graders, there's about 1,000 kids a year now learning how to ride a bike in PE class. So Concord School District, Merrimack Valley, Kearsarge. I think there's some other ones are in the works. And I just heard we got a call from the PE teacher that Broken Ground School wants their own set of bikes just for that school because it was so impactful. So that's my favorite little project. Another one is we got a bike bus at Abbott Downing School, where a teacher started it and parents are keeping it going, where you pick a route and you start at one location in the neighborhood and you zigzag through the neighborhood picking up kids as you go. We do it on Fridays. There's a website. The school gives out a notice when it's happening. And last fall we had 30, 40 riders when it's 20 degrees out. And it's really fun because kids are saying this is fun and you can get places by riding your bicycle. So we really like that. So many other cool things going on. I did want to mention, Concord Area Transit, that's transportation. It's giving people rides for people who need it, and it also lets people get around without having to own a car. When you ride the bus, you see a pretty broad diversity of people using it, and you can put your bike on the front. And the last message, public-private partnerships, all this great stuff that happens, it takes, federal government support and funding, state government, local government, and then the private sector. And, all this frustrating stuff we see happening, yes, there's a lot of good things happening, and there's a lot of awesome people in this room, so it's kind of humbling being up here that making these cool things happen. So that's my message. Thanks.
I'm going to be like Ted, and I'm going to stand up because as a college professor, I do better when I'm standing and can wave my hands around. My name is Tracy Lesser, and I run the Environmental Science and Sustainable Agriculture programs at NHTI. We've had a couple partnerships with the City of Concord. We had a student who's here and is on the Green Energy Committee, Mariah King, did a project. Her senior capstone was to suggest what trees would be best planted in Concord as people want to plant trees, looking at our soil conditions, taking climate change into effect, and deciding what trees are going to be better suited with pests and all these things. And she made an amazing brochure, and we have a poster that's, I believe, in City Hall. We also have a couple interesting projects. We have a big pollinator meadow going on right outside Grapponi Hall that's been a partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, where we're trying to show that cities and municipalities and schools don't need these big mowed areas. They don't need to be paying people to mow the lawn. They can have these beautiful, productive pollinator meadows. We planted 30 fruit trees, and last year was the first year they bore fruit, and students were able to access fruit from them. Unfortunately, some of them got girdled by the mice this winter, but we have a plan to replace them. Sometimes there's pests, you can't control what they do. This fall, every fall I teach a class on climate change. And we've been playing a role-playing game on New Hampshire's energy future. What if we just said, forget it, we're breaking free of ISO New England and New Hampshire is going on their own? And the students each had to represent sort of an interest area. and argue what would New Hampshire's sustainable energy future be. And they had to represent that group. And their final exam, instead of a traditional sit-down exam, we had them write a letter to, at the time, Governor-elect Ayotte, and say, as a citizen and as a voter and a young person, what do they think that her priorities for New Hampshire's energy future should be? And they had to use citations, they had to have facts, they had to have a list, and we were able to send her 30 letters and got a response. Every student got a response from her. So that was a huge impact. There's a community garden on campus. I don't know how many of you know about the community garden. We've been doing soil testing with the community garden. It serves about 168 low-income families in Concord that are able to grow fresh vegetables there. We had a student who came up with an idea to remove the invasive species on campus. And if any of you have walked the NHTI campus, you know it's like the hotbed of invasive species for Concord. In fact, we are the second known site now in New Hampshire of porcelain berry. So yay, being at the corner of 93 and 393 where it all comes together. But the student proposed a project, and our facilities have been working every year in implementing this project and reducing the bittersweet and reducing the other invasive species on campus. And so we're hoping, again, that groups can look at what these are doing, these student-led initiatives, and help remove invasive species. And then we had another project that sometimes science fails, and you learn things. We were looking at using mirrors to reflect the Earth's albedo and to basically reflect the light before it has a chance to be converted into heat energy, and looking at soil moisture. We had some problems with the mirrors and wind and deer and some other things. And so we've taken a pause, we've removed them. We also had, for the first time in 17 years, the Merrimack River flooded to a point where it drowned out all of our scientific gear. So we've pulled back on the study, we're taking a pause, we are re-engineering, we're looking for higher ground, and we will move forward. If anyone has questions on those projects, or if you have a project, if you're part of a nonprofit group or a city group and you think, I'd like a student to look at this or analyze that, please come talk to me. We've been doing projects for DES for years with the Volunteer Lakes Assessment Program, and so I'm always looking for interesting things for our students to participate locally in.
I'll stand up too. Hi, my name is Jeff Evans, and I am a member of the Concord Energy and Environment Advisory Committee, but I am here tonight to talk about my other role, which is the Director of Conservation at Five Rivers Conservation Trust. So this is not a city perspective on land conservation, but I thought I'd talk a little bit about what land conservation is and how it works and what we're doing in the city of Concord. I think people hear about conservation land, but very few actually understand how it works. So I'll give a quick primer on what land conservation is. So fundamentally, land conservation happens through a legal agreement between a landowner and an organization like a land trust or a government entity like a city or a state or the federal government. That is qualified to hold and enforce the legal terms of the conservation easement. The way it works is by restricting the rights that current and future owners have on that piece of land. So if you think about owning a piece of land, you own 100 acres of forest land that is unrestricted. You can do whatever you want with it within the law. You could cut it down. You could break it into smaller pieces and sell it as house lots. You could build a road. You could dig a massive hole and look for minerals underground. You can do whatever you want. And so your ability to do whatever you want is a bundle of rights. You have this bundle of rights that's tied to your piece of land. And when you sell it, you sell the land, and you usually sell most of those rights with the land. But when you place a conservation easement on a piece of property, you break off some of those rights from the bundle and you transfer them to another entity. That would be an organization like Five Rivers, which is a regional land trust, or the city of Concord, which also holds conservation easements, or the state of New Hampshire, or the Forest Society, which is also based here in Concord and works statewide. And by transferring that subset of rights, you are restricted in what you can do with your own land. So usually the rights that get transferred out to the land trust are the right to subdivide, the right to do most kinds of commercial activity other than farming or forestry work, and the rights to mine and extract minerals from the property. So those are the major things that get pulled out. And the powerful thing about a conservation easement is that it is designed to be very durable and very difficult to undo. Conservation easements in the state of New Hampshire are overseen by the charitable trust unit of the Attorney General's office. And so any challenge to a conservation easement has to go through the courts and go through the Attorney General's office. It's very difficult to undo. And so people put trust in the organizations that hold these conservation easements because they expect their wishes for the land to be durable and carry forward into the future. So in Concord, Five Rivers is a regional land trust. We work in 17 towns. Our offices are here in Concord. But we have a lot of projects in the city. And so if you've ever been to Marjorie Swope Park, that is a city-owned property that Five Rivers holds an easement on. Wynant Park. If you have been to Carter Hill Orchard or Diamond Hill Farm, or there's a whole cluster of properties that's down on Stickney Hill Road. Last summer, we partnered with the city to protect Potter Farm, which is out on Oak Hill Road. It's been in the Potter family for almost 300 years, and is currently farmed by Dave Potter. And the City Conservation Commission partnered with Five Rivers and the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, to purchase a conservation easement from the Potter family. And that will allow that farm and its views of Turtletown Pond to remain undeveloped and undisturbed in perpetuity. So we have a lot of activity right here in the city of Concord. We have a great conservation commission that we partner with on many projects that are city funded or city sponsored, but we also work with private landowners like the Potter family. And we do this work with a small professional staff and a large pool of volunteers. Because one of the things that makes this type of protection work is the trust that is placed in the organization holding the easement, that they will make sure that the easement is enforced. So that if someone is violating the easement, there needs to be someone who's going to notice that and step in and stop that from occurring. And so that is part of our role. So we have a large group of volunteers. They go out and visit each of our properties every year and walk the boundaries and check in with the landowners, and then report back, and we compile reports on what activity has happened on the property. And so that is part of our long-term promise. And any organization, even the city, which holds its own easements, is obligated to monitor those easements. So we have other projects coming up, possibly one in the city of Concord that is too early to really talk about specifically, but if you're interested in learning more about it, you can reach out to us at Five Rivers Conservation Trust or come find me afterwards.
That's great. So one of the reasons why we constructed this panel the way that we did was to really provide you the breadth and depth of what's going on in the city. And, thank you. So the breadth and depth of what's going on in the city, and I think you've heard so much of that this evening, and so many different perspectives and positive things that are happening in celebration of Earth Day. So what we'd like to do now is take some questions, follow-up questions to some of the presentations and comments that our folks have had. So I'm going to open it up to some questions. Who wants to start off? I'm sure you have some. Sure.
Hi, Tim Blagden with the Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail. I have a question for Beth. The city of Concord has given our organization permission to look at Pump Station 5 property and the conservation property on the opposite side of the Kentucky River for extending the rail trail. My question would be, how can we get a bridge on the CIP? So I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking for, it's been, the city's thinking about it so that when we apply for grants, we've got eligibility.
Way to put me on the spot, yeah. I have my own.
We got it.
Yep, we got two. I don't know. We have plenty of city councilors in the room. You could talk to any of them. But I think talking to engineering and planning, figuring out a way, to get it on the CIP for a future project. That's pretty much, I mean, Merrimack River Greenway Trail got its own CIP number through a lot of advocacy through city council and through city staff members 20, 30 years ago. So I think you're the next step.
Okay.
That was done through the planning division. Community development would be the way to start.
Okay, I don't know if I need a microphone anyway, but this is for Ted about the state parking lot right downtown, State's, square, big hole in the ground now. First of all, how tall is that going to be, and what are the plans for trees? Because it looks like a monstrosity now.
So I'm going to toss that back to Beth because
Okay.
that's outside of my sphere of influence, and probably the city's as well, but yes.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a 4-story parking garage, about the same height as the building, the legislative office building and the State House Annex. I believe there will be some street trees, but it will be taking up the majority of the block. State does not have to follow city regulations. They are trying to maximize the site for parking for legislators. However, it does give us an opportunity. They will be taking down the overhead garage on Store Street. So that opens up Store Street for more trees, revitalization. Do you know which one I'm talking about? It's that, that tall, the one behind Store Street. So then we can plant street trees. We can try to bring that part of Store Street back to life once they take that down. So that's what's happening. The garage across from City Hall will hold all legislative parking, which is now housed on Store Street.
So are you saying that side will, even within the sidewalk, then they can't plant trees?
I think there will be some trees. I'm not sure it's going to be as many as probably most of us would like to see, but I believe that there is trees planted, proposed for that site.
My name's Jamie Hannon. I live over here in Concord, but by the high school. First of all, thank you all so much for what you're doing. I know it's a grind working on a lot of these details, and just as a resident, it's fantastic, all the work that's going on. Beth, not to put you on the spot again, but I was wondering, you mentioned some of the initiatives the city's done to try and speed up permitting for solar projects and make it easier for both homeowners to do rooftop solar or batteries, and also city properties to allow neighbors to get together to do installations and community powers underway. I know there's a lot of experimentation, though, going on across the country elsewhere to try and speed up permitting, ease those, figure out ways that we can build more clean energy quickly, which clearly is kind of the top priority when it comes to climate and reducing emissions now. So if you had a wish list, I guess, of like other initiatives that you feel like the city could take on to help kind of residents be able to speed up installations or finance those in different ways, are there any things that's sort of top of the list that Concord could take on and that we could help you advocate for as folks in the city?
I think it's financing and at the legislative level. I think Chuck Willing, who's across the aisle from you, he's our member representative for the Community Power Coalition, but he is a lot more in that realm. But there's a lot of legislation right now that's making it even harder than it is. So it starts at the state level top. So if we could make it a lot easier to make it a lot more financially feasible for people, because I think now going forward, even in the past, but it's all about finances right now. It's harder and harder for people to afford everyday things, let alone put more investment into renewable energy. Even in the end, you'll see it pay back, but right now it's a big burden on people's wallets. So I think the finance piece and the legislative piece, if they made it a lot easier and perhaps free, Green Mountain Power in Vermont is doing a pilot program where they're actually giving away batteries to people so that they can store any extra energy they're producing through their solar panels on residential properties, and Green Mountain Power will pay you to be able to use that if the power grid ever goes down. So that would be amazing if that could happen in New Hampshire. If Unitil or Eversource wanted to take that on, like Green Mountain Power has taken it on. But a pilot program like that would be absolutely amazing, I think.
Thank you.
Really?
Hi, Millie LaFontaine, just a resident. This is a small thing, and I'm not sure whether to direct it to transportation or trees. I don't know. I enter 393 from North Main Street each day, and there are always pedestrians who are forced to walk between North Main Street and Commercial Street, and it's so dangerous and so sad. And in the winter, they don't even have a path, and some of them have wheelchairs or dogs, and it's a very difficult thing. I'm wondering, we haven't talked much about pedestrians and how to handle their needs, and that's one that I see.
Looking at me, Beth? Yeah, there's a long history of that location, and I'll tell it the best that I know. But basically, that stretch of 393 is a state roadway, and it's a state sidewalk that the state was supposed to be in charge of maintaining. And the state does not maintain sidewalks. They leave that to the municipalities. So that was pretty difficult, trying to figure out who was responsible for doing it and who should be doing it. And I think they finally came to a solution where the Department of Corrections had people come down there and shovel that. That's what's happened now. I know there was a fatality that happened there several years back. I think someone going to the friendly kitchen, or it was at night. And so people worked really hard to solve that problem. You know, I don't know, it was tough. It was like a Rubik's Cube of, I don't know. So that happened. And another thing that I might want to mention is I-93, the I-93 project, the Concord project. It's several years out still, but there will be some more planning happening, and I think there'll be an opportunity to put pressure on the Department of Transportation to try to improve that as like a gateway, so that when you're coming into the city, you're like, oh, I'm not on an interstate anymore. I'm not coming into the downtown. I need to change my driving behavior. That'll also make it a little bit easier for people to walk in and out of that area. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Not to double down, but Craig, can you talk about bike lanes from like Loudon Road as well? Did that ever
Loudon Road. Oh man, I've lost sleep about Loudon Road. No joke. So Loudon Road is one of the least safe streets in the whole state. And you can kind of see why. You know, 2 lanes in each direction, the aggressive driver is sort of setting the feel of it. And, you know, TPAC and city engineering had a plan for a road diet several years ago to make it, you know, 1 travel lane in each direction with a center turn lane. It's been done in a lot of places around the country, and it really improves safety. But a whole bunch of political stuff happened, and people got upset, and it ended up not happening. In my personal opinion, I think that was a big mistake. It would have allowed for some 5-foot shoulder bike lanes, some other things. And I know Concord Green Space, it's a group, there's some people, Nicole's here, you might want to talk to her after. You know, they're working on a community conversation for people who live on the heights, saying, do you like Loudon Road? Yes or no? What do you like? What would you like to see improved? You know, and starting the conversation from a different perspective. You know, what do we want to see on Loudon Road? You know, do we want it to be a throughway, or do you want it to be a neighborhood? And, you know, I think the time might be coming to have that conversation, and people who live on the heights should be envisioning what they want to see. And I'm glad you brought that up, even though it gives me stomachache thinking about it.
Great. Any other questions?
Sure. Putting on my other hat. So I'm part of the Central New Hampshire Bicycle Coalition that Craig is also on the board of. So 2 things. One, before I lose my train of thought, if you want to advocate for better biking from the outside, so Craig, for example, is on T-Pack Bike, but if you want to push from the outside, come and talk to us about joining the Central New Hampshire Bicycle Coalition, because our mission is more people on bikes more often. And we do have the bike swap coming up the weekend after Mother's Day. I've got information cards here. So, really briefly, you can have more free space at your home and cash in your wallet by turning in the bike that you're not riding and getting somebody else to ride it at the bike swap. Come talk to either me or Craig afterwards if you're interested. Thank you. Absolutely.
I'll just say something. It's exciting to see so many people here. I'm so glad all of you came out. I hope it's Representative Goodlander, what she said, that people represented. It's a representative democracy. So you have members, you have mayor here, you have members of city council. There's a lot of initiatives in the city, but if it doesn't have public support, it's really hard for city council to vote to move it forward. So I really hope that you reach out to your councilors if there's initiative that you strongly believe in. The community power launch was a huge success because we had a lot of people, we had a lot of public outreach, we had really dedicated people working behind it. But without that, I don't know if that would be where we're at right now. So I just really encourage all of you, thank you for coming tonight, but sorry you have to keep on fighting and reaching out to people to make sure that these things keep happening. There's money involved with a lot of these, and the budget is going to be a difficult conversation that council's going to have this year. So I want to make sure that your beliefs and what you want for the city is represented. So make sure that you reach out to your representatives that you've elected to be there.
Thanks, Beth.
Sure. Okay.
I'm Pam Snott and I live in Concord. And this is kind of more of a comment to Ted and Reagan. Thank you.
So I think there's a need for more education. I spend quite a bit of time on Nextdoor, probably too much time. But I think, in terms of trees, the trees that we have now, the mature trees, it's just, they're so important. They put these new little spindly trees in and sometimes they don't make it. I think there has to be more education to homeowners about taking down perfectly healthy trees just because they feel like they don't want the tree there anymore. And Reagan, similar. There was a lot of chatter on Nextdoor not too long ago, people complaining about the purple bags and having to pay for them. So I think another thing is to talk about reducing. I just see so much junk in people's trash and in their recycling bins. Someone has a party for their kids and they buy all kinds of plastic crap that just ends up going into the bin. And I guess, I'm different generation. My mother reused things and, we didn't have a theme party and all the stuff got thrown away. And, it's so different. And I think it's about education and about trying to change mindsets about things. Thank you.
Do you have some comments on that?
Oh, sure. Well, thanks. Thank you for that. And that is exactly, I think, the perspective that we try to bring to this whole, to what we're doing as a committee. And it's difficult because people don't understand, and I think you brought up a really good point, is that I look at the giant tree, that some of the giant trees that are along the streets that should not be surviving, right? Because you couldn't plant another tree. You cannot plant another tree in that location today. And even if we tried, it probably wouldn't survive. And the reason is because that tree was there before we started putting salt down. It was there before some of the pests were coming through. It was there before we had, before climate change started affecting our climate. All of those things that have happened since those trees were put in, and they have giant roots that go all the way down and bring in water from who knows where in order to sustain themselves. So when you do take down one of those big trees, it's highly unlikely that we will end up with a location that will be feasible to do that again without enormous cost. And I think this is one of the things that's going to have to be kind of the future conversation as we start talking about infrastructure in the city. We have to talk about green infrastructure. That green infrastructure, part of that has to do with how do we get trees to survive. In order to do that in today's, the way our cities are laid out and the way that they look today, it requires a lot of infrastructure for that tree. It requires planting media. It requires oftentimes tree boxes to be able to allow that tree to be able to do what it's going to do and have the water and nutrients to do so that it can get large enough to withstand the hot summers and the cold winters and the salt and all the other stuff that we do. So I think that this is going to be a really interesting future budget conversation, and that's where you all come in, because this is your budget, it's your city, you're Mr. Mayor. So, you know, these are the conversations that have to happen if you want to try to replace those kinds of green infrastructure. It's going to be much, much more expensive than it has in the past. You can't put a spindly little stick in the ground.
Great, thanks.
Sorry.
And I absolutely agree about the importance of recycling education and education about reduction and reuse. What we also know based on national studies of the most effective ways to actually influence and change behavior on recycling and waste reduction is that education is not enough. And so it's very important that we also look at a city on how we can not just educate people on ways to reduce their waste and opportunities to recycle or reuse in the city, but also to have mechanisms that actually speak directly to people. And what I mean is the Purple Bag program is so effective because it has a direct impact on people where they are actually paying for the waste they generate. That is why we saw such a dramatic reduction in our waste in 2009 when we implemented that program. If we had done a super extensive education campaign in 2009 instead, I can guarantee you we would not have seen that type of sweeping reduction in our waste. And so I do understand some of the concerns that people have about the purple bags. If you fill them very, very full with very heavy material, yes, they might break. I understand that there is a cost involved and that can be a barrier for some people. And so the city does have mechanisms in place for people who might have a challenge with those costs. But in terms of our ability to reduce our waste as a city, the Purple Bag program is far more effective than an education campaign. So I think what we can do is to educate and even get more information out there about why the city plans to maintain that Purple Bag program when we switch to an automated system in the years to come.
I definitely support the Purple Bag program. Just so there's no
Oh,
confusion.
absolutely, yeah.
I just think this is a polluter pays issue. And that's one of those things where I think we all have, I think people can nod and smile until you're the polluter. And this is one of the challenges that we think about, how do we green up our lawns? Well, we actually do have to plant the trees that have the stuff that fall off and then take care of it and replant them if they die and that sort of thing. And I just think that it's such an opportunity for all of us to do this kind of education. At Christmas time, I like to give purple bags to my neighbors. It's a great stocking stuffer. It's not very expensive if you're thinking about a white elephant gift. Purple bags are a great item because it's in that ballpark of cost, and everybody needs it. And it's more socially acceptable than giving people underwear.
That's right. Great. That's an excellent way to end.
Go ahead and scan the QR code on your way out. That
brings you to the website with the Earth Day Challenge ideas.
Yes, brings you to the website with the Earth Day Challenge ideas.
And other
Post and share.
And what's that?
Post and share.
Post and share.
Tag your friends.
Thank you, and tag your friends. Thank you, Councilor Kurtz. That was actually her idea, so I want to give her credit for that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we are going to stick around for a little bit because the last thing we want to do, we had some really great questions, so thank you for that. But we want to open it up to more of a general sort of what would you like to see the city do? And it may be that what we're not doing now or what you want the city to do more of. but you've heard a lot from folks here, and maybe that will inspire you a little bit. But we do want to just open it up for general comment. And so what would you like to see our city do? What is the vision that you would like us to implement?
Well, this is very personal to me because it affects me and everyone who lives on Pembroke Road. Pembroke Road has had the worst potholes of anywhere in the city. We have much too much traffic on that street. Plus now with all that new housing near 106, it's almost intolerable. When the city fills a pothole, which I appreciate very much, they don't make it level. So you're driving down and it's bump, 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 bump. Bad for your car, bad for your tires. So when they do fill a pothole, can't they please smooth the top over so it isn't like that? Is that your department? General Services?
No.
Well, I will volunteer, but
These are all
we can
volunteers,
pass
yeah.
that on to general services.
I would appreciate it because something has to help Pembroke Road. Everything gets dumped there.
Yeah.
Great. Are there general comments? Yeah.
Was wondering, and this may be for TPAC, maybe putting up no idling signs in sort of where people congregate to do school pickup. I live by Krista McAuliffe School, and during school pickup times in the afternoon, cars will be sitting right outside my home office window for 30 minutes, idling their engines and waiting for school pickup time to arrive.
Very good. I think that, we do have some no idling signs around the city, but I think we could always use some more in some specific areas.
Ted's gonna get us done. Oh, no.
Yeah, I will tomorrow bring that concern to our air division at DES and see if there's any programs that will help fund some of those signs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Other general comments?
I have one general comment. I don't know that I need that.
Well,
I think everybody can hear me.
It's for the
Okay. I'm Al Rain. I live up in the north end of town. And something I would like to see us work towards would be some level of energy independence. So I heard that we have 2 arrays, and it was 5 megawatts and another one of 6. Is that correct? What's our total consumption in this geography with our 40,000 people that live here? Do we know?
Just Chuck know. Do you know offhand? Wait, yeah. We know.
So to me, that's what we need to backfill. And I don't know if that's a direction, but that's something that I would invite.
I think the city, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think for the municipal operations alone, it might be around 9 megawatts.
When you say municipal operations?
That's just the city property, city government. So
Okay.
separating
I'm
the
talking
city,
about our community.
right?
The
So
greater
the city versus the entire community. So
And you need to start somewhere, so I applaud the efforts that have been done entirely.
Right.
But I think that's a big challenge for us,
Yeah.
is to see how far we can go with that.
Chuck, do you have a thing?
Yeah, I think just for perspective, and I will not remember exact numbers, but the city government, I think, is something like 3% of the overall electricity consumption in town. So kind of we're on our way to being, we already buy the RECs, and we're on our way to basically offsetting all of the city government consumption with renewable energy, but you can see how it would need to scale up to make a community-wide impact. One of the promises of community power is that you can select your own sources of power, so that if we can keep going with community power, that might be, yeah.
Save money by going to the 100%.
Yeah, that's great. One, like a barrier that we face there is state law that doesn't let the community power group program directly participate in net metering. So as a result of that, kind of related to that, net metering customers can't participate in community power. And
I see this as a 20 to 50-year process.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a populist movement. You have lots to overcome,
Yep.
such as preemptive posturing or whatever by industry, or the existing infrastructure that needs to be financed
Yep.
by our consumption.
Yep.
Right? So.
Totally agree. So it'll be a process.
Couple more comments, and actually, is there any food left over there? Is there any food left over there? Yes. There are refreshments. Good. Excellent.
No recycling today, so I'm recycling.
Very good. Thank you. So.
I would like to address my comments to the representative from the Tree Committee. You have to go and talk to the Golf Course Advisory Committee. They have murdered the course by taking down huge old pines. And they are, at least the people at the course are saying, we're doing this because the PGA recommended we do it. But they haven't replanted anything like they said they were going to do. And 2 more huge live trees came down this spring. And it's turning into a really boring course. It used to be a beautiful course with the old pines along, and they've just cut down half of them so that there's more sunlight to grow the grass. But you have to get them to stop and put their efforts into, and the Tree Committee, you ought to walk into the advisory committee, the Golf Course Advisory Committee meetings, and demand that this be done, because it's changed the course dramatically for the worse, and they're not listening, and they're doing something totally opposite of what your committee is trying to do.
Yeah, just to respond is that we have been slowly working our way through all the different committees in the city to do sort of what I call in-reach with our own committees here, and that's a really good idea to go chat with them. So I thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate that.
All right, let's take one more, and then it's getting near time. So, one last comment, general comment. Close this out. Somebody?
I make a motion.
All right. Okay. Discussion. All right. We're convened. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening.